CAPS in Australia. Diagnosis of CAPS is frequently delayed. I've referenced this Australian epidemiology paper a few times, and today I'm going to dig into it a little bit. It was published in 2016 as the first, and still today, the only epidemiological study of CAPS in Australia. Epidemiology is the study of disease incidence, so put simply, they've tried to figure out how many Australians have CAPS. And that's pretty cool considering CAPS is a rare disease, originally thought to be 1 in a million, which would mean only 25 people in Australia, right? By sending emails to a select group of clinicians in 2012 and 2013, they then sent questionnaires to those clinicians who responded, identifying 18 patients, made up of 12 children and 6 adults. All 8 cases of NOMID were children, NOMID being the most severe form of CAPS, and 7 of those were male. There were 2 children with Muckle-Wells syndrome, the moderate severity form of CAPS, and 2 with FCAS, considered the mildest form of CAPS. All 6 adults were listed as Muckle-Wells syndrome. There were 3 cases where no genetic sequencing had been done, and 1 where it had been done but no mutation was found. In all other cases, the mutations had been found. The one where they didn't find a mutation was being treated with oral steroids and antihistamines, which is no way to treat CAPS. So I really hope that's not still happening, especially as that patient already had hearing loss. Bringing this to my home state of South Australia, this paper shows 1 case of NOMID, which we know is a child, and 2 with Muckle-Wells or FCAS, it's not clear which, and we don't know if they were also children or adults. Of the total 18, there was a single case with my mutation. Rather than the amino acid A439V annotation, they've shown the genetic change of 1316C to T, which is the same thing. And they've shown this as FCAS, which is what it is listed as in the InFEVR's reference database, although we know there is some overlap of symptoms with Muckle-Wells syndrome. This single case of A439V was less than 2 years old at the time of the questionnaire, and it is interesting that no parent was included in the study. What I can tell you is that apart from this person under 2 years old, none of those included in this study had my mutation, which makes sense because my family didn't start getting diagnosed until after they had collected their data, or so I thought. A few weeks ago, I gave a presentation, which you can see here, and I talked about 17 cases of CAPS in my living family, describing us as a can of worms in terms of numbers. Since I got home, I've been busy digging into my family tree and connected another family who started getting diagnosed in 2011 but weren't included in this epidemiology data. So there are now over 50 of us. And looking at the ancestry, probability suggests there will be many more. So I'm upgrading my can of worms to a Pandora's box. In terms of global estimates, a review published last year from Germany emphasised the difficulty of estimating the true CAPS incidence because of underdiagnosis, underreporting and selection bias. They now say it might be 2.7 to 5.5 in a million, but that it might still be higher. So for Australia, with a population of 25 million, that would mean between 67 and 138 cases or more. My money is on more. And we talk about the 3 treatments for CAPS, but in Australia, we can only get the cheapest one, which isn't that cheap. As there were some clinical trials done recently right here in Adelaide on a new oral drug, rather than the expensive daily injections, I'm hoping the new oral drug will be cheaper and that our expanding case numbers will drive that drug faster to market for us here. But I'm wondering how our doctors here are going to cope with the extent of this thing when very few are even still aware of it. Plus, so many of us are older and damaged from the years of inflammation, which this paper mentions. Their study found a median delay of 7.2 years. A median is the middle in a set of numbers. So it's an inappropriate choice of metric given the overrepresentation of paediatric cases. They cited longer delays of 9 and 14 years from other studies, and the average diagnostic delay in their study was 13.4 years, which is still skewed by its paediatric focus. If we separate adults and children, the median delay for children was 2.9 years, and the median delay for adults was 30.9 years. Those numbers are also closer to the averages for each group. Well, I was 43 when I was diagnosed, and our family is going to blow all of these numbers out of the water. This paper does point out that there are overlapping features of the three conditions under the banner of CAPS, and that sometimes mutations are not found, but clinical response to treatment with Kineret was sufficient to positively define CAPS. In their conclusion, they state that although CAPS is a rare disorder, there remains an unacceptable diagnostic delay, leading to years of debilitating symptoms and in some cases irreversible neurological injury and hearing loss. Given that effective therapy is readily available, we recommend any infant under 2 years of age presenting with chronic urticaria, especially in those in whom the symptoms began in the first 6 months of life, be referred to a rheumatologist or immunologist for further evaluation of a possible CAPS disorder. This is great, but it doesn't go far enough. To quote a patient advocate friend of mine, kids grow up. I absolutely want kids to get early diagnosis and life-changing treatment, but adults need to be diagnosed and treated too. And the plethora of misdiagnoses from the past and inappropriate treatments needs to be revisited as part of that process. Adults have learned, like I did, to stop looking for medical help, and it's hard to convince them to come back and see another specialist. In the past, we didn't have this knowledge or an effective treatment, but now we do. So let's use it and start improving some lives.